why did we, for to check a space before this, we had /s, and after this we just press the spacebar once. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. This channel, Everyday Data Science, is all about trying to learn various concepts of data science by practicing a lot of questions. This video is in continuation of the series where we are trying to learn Python by solving interview questions from top tech companies like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. If you're preparing for any of this role, this is a great series to follow and build your concepts. So yeah, let's jump right in. In this video, we are going to solve this question on Stata Scratch regarding find the drafts which contains the word optimism. This question has been asked in Google interviews, and it's a great question if you're preparing for data engineer, data scientist, BI analyst, data analyst, ML engineer, or software engineer roles. Okay, the question reads, find the drafts which contain the word optimism. So we are given a data frame called Google File Store, and expected output is a pandas data frame with two columns. The file name should be a draft, and the content should contain a word called optimism. Okay. So let's inquire about this data frame called Google File Store. We have two different columns, file name and contents. File name can be drafts or final, etc. And then in each of the drafts, we need to see whether the contents contain a word called optimism or not. Okay, so basically, if you think about it, it actually is filtering this data frame. Now, filtering needs to be done at two levels. Firstly, you need to make sure that the file name is a draft, and secondly, you need to also make sure that the contents contain the word optimism in it. Okay, so let's firstly make sure the file name that we are dealing with is a draft. So what we can do is, let's take the column called file name, the contains method of the string object. So whenever we need to use a method of an object, you need to firstly write .str dot contains. However, just think about it. We are basically naming the file. Now you can name it in all lowercase, I can name it in all uppercase, someone can name it in sentence case. Obviously, the best way and to make our solution generalized, what we need to do is, let's convert everything to either uppercase or lowercase. The convention is always to convert it to a lowercase. So what we should do is, let's convert everything to lowercase. Now here everything is lowercase already except the first letter, right? So you might think, what is the purpose of it? But just think about it, right? So why we are doing this is, it will generalize our solution. So no matter in the future, whatever way the file name or the contents are stored, it does not matter to us because we are anyway converting into lowercase. So once we do this, then we need to make sure that in the file name, we need to have the file name start as draft, and it can be 1, 2, 5, 10. It does not matter. We need to make sure that it is a draft. So we write str dot contains. Now it should start with draft. Think about it. Let's say here you have another row where the file name was overdraft1. Does that mean it is a draft? Generally no. So you see, if you just do draft, it is possible that there are some words before it, some words after it, which might be problematic. So that is why what you need to do is, make sure that at the starting of the file name, we have the word draft, and after that you have 1, 2, 4, 5. It does not matter to us. So now what we need to do is, if I go ahead and run this, it is going to return us true or false value. So if you look at it, you have true, true, and false. Why? Because it is draft 1, draft 2, and here you do not have draft in the starting, so it is false. So obviously, if you pass this to the original data frame, it will perform a Boolean indexing. We have learned about this a lot in our series. We have already done 50 questions in this series. So let me go ahead and run this. So now it will only keep the two rows where the file name was draft, right? So you have these. Now what we need is, we need to make sure that we are only concerned about those drafts where the word optimism appears in the contents part. So what we can do is, let's save this as a variable or as data frame called drafts. Let's call it drafts because we just filtered to the drafts part. Now what we need is, from the draft, let's take the contents column. Again, same logic. Let's convert everything to lowercase. So str dot lower. And then what we need is, we need to make sure that this contents column contains the word optimism. Now again, str dot contains optimism. Now, how do we need to write this optimism? Think about it. Here you have optimism in the middle of a sentence. That is, you can have a space before this and after this. That is one condition. There are some drafts where the contents word can start with optimism word as well. That means you can have zero or more spaces between the word, that is zero or one. If it is one space, obviously you mean that it is in the middle of the sentence. If not, then it is at the starting of the sentence. So what you need to do is you need to make sure to check for spaces. So you write forward slash s and then plus. What will this plus do? Basically, it is saying that check for zero or more spaces and then followed by the word optimism, and after the word optimism check for a space as well. So there might be two questions for you here. Firstly, why do we need a space after optimism? Just think about it. Even if the content start with the word optimism, so you will write optimism space something, right? So in that case is satisfied. Even if it is in the middle of the sentence, again you will, after the word optimism there will be a space, right? That is how you write English. So in both the cases you need a space. Second question might be, why did we, for to check a space before this, we had forward slash s, and after this we just press the space bar once? So the reason being, here you have to check, right? So let me just drag it to the left. Here you had to check zero or more spaces. Here you are making sure that yes, there will be a space, because until and unless there is no space after this, how can you say that this optimism is a word? If you have optimism and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G after this, there is no space between them, then you do not have optimism as a word in your contents, right? So you understand why we need two different ways of checking spaces here. So once we have this, see, if you have not learnt about this, this is actually called regular expressions. So to make sure that it checks for regular expressions, although by default it is true, but let me, since we are using it for the very first time in this series, let me explicitly write it. So regex is equal to true. Let me go ahead and run this. So now if you look at it, false and true. Here you do not have the word optimism, but here do you have? So you have false here but true here. So obviously now if you pass it through the original data frame drafts, that is going to keep only those rows where the row returned true. That is how Boolean indexing works. So now if you look at it, you have drafts.txt and then it has the word optimism in it. Let us compare with our expected output. Yes, exactly the same. So if I go ahead and submit it, so please pass all the test cases. So yeah, everything is green, and this is how we do it. So you understand? Yes, it is tricky question. Even though it says easy, it is like to, if you want to generalize the statement, it is not that easy. What we basically did was, firstly, we made sure that we are only dealing with the drafts. So we performed level 1 Boolean indexing to make sure that file name, since it is a string, that is, if you look at the data type, right? So it is, both are variable characters. So we are dealing with strings. So we lowered it to generalize our query, and then we also check for whether it contains the word called draft, and it should start with draft. Secondly, we also made sure that in the contents part we have optimism as a word. Word can start or can be in the middle of the sentence, so depending upon that you can have zero or more spaces before that, and one space after that is guaranteed. So yeah, this is how we do it. Let me know if there is a better way or more efficient way to solve this question. Let the solution be in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.